Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and I have to admit, this video might be a little premature. After all, Death Battle's Kickstarter campaign still has a bit more time left to go. There seems to be some ambiguity regarding how the rematch voting is even gonna work, but this is something I've seen a lot of people talk about, and I kinda want my turn before it gets too late. So today I'll be addressing the episode I most want to see get another look at next year, as well as sprinkling in some general thoughts about what may or may not come out of all of this. Now, to be clear, I still prefer seeing fresh fights over rematches in general, but I'm rolling with the idea that this is what is happening. Based on the Kickstarter FAQ, it seems as though the actual vote will have a limited number of options, at least compared to how many episodes exist. So for all I know, any episodes I refer to here may ultimately end up irrelevant. But assuming this one makes it in, and I think it has a good chance of doing so, the matchup I will be voting for is Mewtwo vs Shadow. Now, just by saying that, I've probably validated some people and pissed off some others, but before I get to talking about that fight, I wanted to briefly go over some other ones I wouldn't mind voting for if this one doesn't get in. First up is an obvious one, the Chief of Masters versus the Doom-slaying Guy. This is a rematch idea that's been in the public mind for so long, and I've said before I'd be interested in it. That being said, my enthusiasm for it has faded away marginally. Just because I've heard some Doom fans speak out about how they don't want this character to come back just for a predictable and one-sided fight, and I have to admit, if I was a bigger Doom fan, I'd probably want him to come back in a more interesting way too, especially since he does have other legitimate matchups. But still, it could be a well-done production and show off just how much things have changed. Those are still appealing prospects to me. And another one I'd be happy to vote for is Mario vs Sonic again. Some might see this as unnecessary, but I think it's very possible for Death Battle to do more justice to these characters. Plus, after the new Goku vs Superman, I'd be really excited to see what they do with this. It is also a very personal matchup to me, but at the same time, we're already getting Bowser vs Eggman soon, and there are still other fights that could benefit from even just a second episode. I don't think Mario vs Sonic 3 has to happen now by any means. Would it be worthwhile? Yeah, I think so, but that's kind of as far as it goes, all things considered. Although, like I said, I'd still certainly prefer it to win over a decent amount of the other big ones. And on top of all of that, the issue I have with both of these ideas is that, while not guaranteed, I feel like there's something Death Battle could potentially get to on their own without the need of a rematch vote. I find it much more sensible to use this opportunity to vote for something that otherwise would probably never see the light of day. And out of all those options, Mewtwo vs Shadow is the easiest pick for me, although Sephiroth vs Virgil might come close in that regard. I think some people would dismiss it because it would be Shadow's fourth time on the show, and usually I'd be inclined to agree, but this is a very special case where this would more so replace the old version in my mind instead of add to it. Plus, Mewtwo is one of the characters I'd like to see come back the most, so that kind of offsets that. But now let's get into actually talking about why I want this. I'm not sure how popular of an opinion this is, but in terms of the matchup itself, I'm really fond of it. And yeah, you have the right to say go figure, considering animal-like experiments are kind of my thing, but I really do think the connective tissue here is amazing, with the characters also having very different power sets. That's one of my favorite kinds of fights, stuff that has both the themes and more unpredictability in the fight dynamic. I'm familiar with both characters, I like them a lot, but this is ultimately just a portion of why I would choose this fight. The other portions revolve around the quality and circumstances of the original episode, and it not just being about outcome reversal appeals. Let me explain. There are many old, bad episodes that could potentially benefit from another go at it, sure, but the reason why I would argue Mewtwo vs Shadow deserves it the most is that it's the one that basically never even got a chance to be good. Season 3 in general felt like it suffered from some unique issues, but Mewtwo vs Shadow's production was rushed due to the personal responsibilities and struggles of the animator, and that shows in a lot of areas, like the length or what you see and don't see on screen. Or if you want something more specific, Takahata 101 was literally directed to act worse as Shadow, which, like, I know why he was, but come on! There's more I could talk about, but what I'm saying is this episode in particular had unavoidable problems. Stuff that was gonna happen no matter what and make it bad no matter what. That in my mind makes it a good pick for allowing Death Battle to actually try their best with it, especially with how far they've come since 2016. And I know the animation quality isn't everything, but it's not like the general writing or analyses were outstanding either. It's probably a bottom 10 episode for me and a lot of other people. Its quality combined with the circumstances that were partially responsible for it sure sounds like high second chance material to me. But now here's the part of the video where I think some people might really disagree. I don't think the main point of a rematch should be to change the outcome from what it was before. It's important that a rematch covers specific things that weren't before and presents things better, but if it's so obvious it'll just have the opposite outcome, we don't really need another death battle to tell us that. This goes for fights that they've openly gone back on before, like Gaara vs Toph and Yang vs Tifa. And yeah, some other ones including Master Chief vs Doomslayer. And don't even get me started on matchups where the outcome will definitely stay the same, but people don't believe that. It's basically the same team as before, guys. Ben 10 is not gonna beat Green Lantern. And I especially want you to really ask yourselves, do you want to see two Green Lantern characters potentially win in the span of a year? Because I know how spiteful some of you guys can get. Now, yes, I know not everyone is gonna vote for something just because they're salty. Some just want a matchup to get a better episode, and I respect that a lot. But again, for me, that just happens to be Mewtwo vs Shadow, both for personal reasons and for what plagued that episode specifically, as I've already talked about. And yeah, you can believe Shadow should have won or that Mewtwo would still win all you want, but as far as Death Battle ruling it goes, you gotta admit it's much harder to predict what will happen, and I'd say the same goes for Mario vs Sonic and a few others. This, in my opinion, is when a rematch idea is at its best, when there's room for improvement on the representation all around, but the ending is still up in the air, because again, there's just more at play in this debate. I think that's the best of all worlds. So by now, I hope I've made my thoughts clear. I'm not saying this is the one option that has any good reasoning behind it, but with its relative unpredictability, the original episode's quality, and just how much I like the matchup, this is the choice for me. It really is the one that best fits everything I'd be looking for, and with this rematch voting event probably never happening again, I'd really like to capitalize on its one chance to be made into something really, really good. I don't know if it'll be able to compete with the really big ones like Master Chief vs Doomslayer or Ben 10 vs Green Lantern, but I think it has somewhat of a chance if it makes it in. I'm hoping the Sonic 3 trailer comes out soon to generate more hype for it. But no matter what, I encourage you to vote for what you want to vote for when the time comes. May the best rematch win. That's all I've got for today. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. But until then, have a great day and peace out.